a box sitting all alone and open. And what we found inside was not meant for just anybody to see. We unravel the mystery of how it got there.
And where do you go for help when a police officer has you living in fear? 4 investigates the tragic story of a woman with no place to hide.
First breaking news, though. State police are looking for 2 small children they say are missing and endangered. They say Skylar Lee and Kaysen Lee were taken by their mother, Kaylin Johnson, who does not have custody.
They were last seen this afternoon in the area of Mariano Lake. That's on the Navajo Nation. They may be in a blue Nissan Sentra with Arizona plate BHB 1592.
As the 10-year-old victim of Albuquerque's latest alleged street racing crash is laid to rest, we ask, is there anything that can stop this madness?
Tonight, we're taking a look at an alternative to these senseless risks on the road. This comes as our community mourns for little Esmeralda Rivera. Her funeral service was in Spanish, but the anguish requires no translation.
Family and friends wore pink, Esme's favorite color, white roses, and a child's drawing atop a child-sized casket there lined with pink. Family members remembered Esme as a happy girl who loved singing and dancing.
Mourners say justice will be hard to come by.
We also need people to, be more careful out on the roads, take other people's life into consideration, also take their lives into consideration. They took one life, but he also is ruining his life, and this shouldn't be happening to anyone.
The Rivera family's vehicle was rear-ended on I-25 early Saturday morning. It flipped and Esmeralda was ejected. It's unclear if she was wearing a seatbelt. 22-year-old Xavier Nelson was arrested. Another driver is being sought for questioning.
Police say Nelson was street racing when he crashed into Esme's family's SUV, going more than 100 miles per hour at times. Now, there are people in our state who race as a hobby.
Kasia Grigorchuk spoke to one of those racers. He says there's a big difference between what he does and what police say happened to Esme. Kasia.
Tom Tessa, that is right. And if you live along Tramway, chances are you've heard or seen cars racing by. Now, that's street racing, and it's illegal. It can be extremely dangerous, and obviously, as we've seen, it can be deadly. But drag racers want everyone to know that there is a safer, better alternative. Both have a need for speed, but drag racers will tell you there's a very distinct difference between them and street racers.
A drag racer does it at the track with safety equipment where there's paramedics, there's safety personnel, you're in a closed area.
A street racer?
That's just a new thing that's come out that's gotten a little out of hand from all these TV shows like Street Outlaws and Fast and Furious, where they glorify drag racing on the street around crowds.
Racing since he was just 15 years old, Thomas Martinez will tell you drag racers care too much about their cars and lives to be racing anywhere but the drag strip, something he learned from experience doing it all wrong.
I've been racing since I was 15 years old. Started on the streets, realized that the track was a lot more fun. You could go out there and pay a couple of dollars and beat your car all day long, and you didn't have the police chasing you, and you didn't have issues.
It's when tragedy strikes, like Albuquerque's latest alleged street racing death, that the sanctioned drag racing community hurts the most. However, Martinez believes there's still a chance for change.
It's all about the community pushing each other to go to the safe places and have more information out there, because a lot of these young guys don't realize it's pretty cheap to go and do, and it's a safe environment.
And getting into the dragway may be easier than you think. Martinez tells us a standard racing fee is about $20, and you can literally go crazy. And the dragway is near Mesa del Sol. That's in southeast Albuquerque. That's the place to drive fast but safely. For now, reporting live on Tramway in Montgomery, Kasia Grigorchuk, KOB Eyewitness News 4.
Earlier this year, Bernalillo County passed an ordinance to get tough on street racing. So far, it has yet to be used, though. Under these rules, Bernalillo County deputies can seize a car from someone who is caught street racing, but they can only do that if the person has been convicted of street racing before. Supporters admit catching somebody is pretty tough, but say the law does serve as a deterrent.
An update tonight to a tragedy outside a Lobo basketball game. Police have identified the pedestrian hit and killed last night as Jay White. They believe he was in his 70s. Officials at the pit think White was a fan and was leaving the game when he was hit. Police do not suspect the driver was speeding or drinking and say they don't plan on filing charges. We pass discarded junk every day without thinking twice, but a mystery box sitting on the side of the road proved to hold quite a story inside.
At least that's what our Caleb James learned when he found that box during a walk. And Caleb, it led you through credit card numbers, kids' names, and eventually to a crime that was caught on camera.
Quite the saga indeed, and it is a reminder tonight about how often our very personal information can be very at risk, and it doesn't matter how trustworthy the people that we trust it with happen to be sometimes. I learned that firsthand on a walk through this commercial development. Found a metal box right here on the ground, beat up. It turned out to be just page 1 of a very bizarre little story. People ask, where do you find your stories? Well, sometimes the side of the road. This weekend, I stumbled across this beat-up, dented box, lidless, dumped in a Northeast Heights shopping center. Not really a story. Until I looked inside. Payment forms with credit card numbers and names on them, even a canceled check made out to Children's Choice Daycare. And there were kids' names written on those papers, too. I picked up that box and lugged it home for safekeeping. And on Tuesday, we went to Children's Choice, an Albuquerque daycare, to ask how on earth this sensitive information could have been kicked to the curb. And that is when Director Mike Ashcraft called.
It's our safe.
Was it? Did you have a recent break-in, or?
We did, yeah.
Boy, did they have a break-in.
So we ripped that totally off, squeezed down through that little tiny box right there. We've got him on camera, a little skinny guy, the Chicago Cubs baseball hat on.
Turns out a whole week before I found that box, Children's Choice security cameras caught this guy literally climbing up on their roof. He dropped down through the ceiling, and Ashcraft thinks he must have cased the joint, because here he is again in the early hours of the next Monday, a 2-day heist while no one was there. The second visit, he maneuvers that building's hallways with a headlamp on, leaving his loot by the back door. Recognize anything? The burglar uses that heavy safe to prop open the door while he makes off with a TV.
We will notify everybody that we know that that information was in there, that their credit card information has been compromised.
We returned the broken safe and the credit card slips we found inside. There you are. There she is. Ashcraft says the thief likely cleared out the cash and left anything else behind, but who knows what got lost to the wind.
I'm glad you're the one that found it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, multiple victims here, right? There's Children's Choice who got broke into. There's also the parents who have their names and their credit card information on those slips. Like Mike Ashcraft said, they're being contacted. Now, Ashcraft also thinks this man on your screen here who broke into his building back in June is probably the same guy from last weekend. There's a better look at his face. If you recognize him, call police 242-COPS. Back to you.
Thank you, Caleb. Another warm day across the state with highs in the 60s, 70s, and yes, some 80-degree readings, including Carlsbad, Roswell, and Tucumcari, where it was a record high today. The old record was set back in 1963 with a high of 80. And Santa Fe, you hit a record as well, 72 today, but changes are on the way. In fact, we do have a winter storm watch. It takes effect Wednesday night for the San Juans of Colorado, including areas just north of Durango and Pagosa Springs. We'll talk about the storm that's on the way coming up in my full forecast. Tessa?
Thanks, Jorge. A young man was brutally murdered, and police say the suspect did something else terrifying afterward. Albuquerque police arrested London Word after his mother called to say she woke up yesterday and found him standing over her bed. She says he was covered in blood and crying, telling her he cut someone's throat and put his body in the closet. Police found Lucas Bazan's body in that closet of a southeast Albuquerque home. And they say Word admitted to killing Bazan in a dispute over trading meth for rent.
When some students look at the seal of the University of New Mexico, they find it offensive. They've rallied for change, and today the Board of Regents promised some action. Since 1923, UNM's official seal has featured a frontiersman and a conquistador. Those opposed to the design say it glorifies violent treatment of Native Americans by Europeans. Today they got to share their feelings with the Board of Regents.
But they also are holding weapons in their hands. These symbols mean something. And what they mean to the native peoples of these lands and elsewhere is death, trauma, violence, racism.
Supporters of the seal argue the symbols are part of UNM's tradition. The Board of Regents agreed to look at the cost of changing the design.
Next.
Her family says she asked for help and never got it. And now that woman is gone, murdered. Next, 4 Investigates brings you that woman's unusual story and explains why she had no place to hide.
And the UNM women's basketball team runs over New Mexico State at home. JP has the highlights coming up later in sports. As we approach this next story, we want you to think about that place where you feel most safe. Maybe it's your home, maybe it's at work.
Well, tonight, our 4 Investigates team tells us about a woman who had that taken away. First, her sense of safety, and then her life.
Chris Ramirez explains why this New Mexico woman had no place to hide.
April 21st, 2016.
What's going on?
Our defendant shot in the head.
He shot her and then killed himself.
Silver City Police Captain Mark Contreras shot his longtime girlfriend, Nikki Bascom. Then he turned the gun on himself. That's where their story comes to an end. Our story tonight is about the numerous red flags that led up to that very tragic day.
Everyone went to Nikki for everything. I mean, she would take the time. She made you feel like, you know, you were special, you were loved, you were cared for, and she was very concerned about you always.
Carrie Dalton is Nikki's mom. Carrie watched her daughter juggle college and 2 small children and become a well-respected nurse.
She just loved everybody and always made sure that you felt loved around her.
Tension grew between Mark and Nikki in the months before their deaths. Mark suspected Nikki was seeing someone else, a doctor she worked with, and Mark's behavior grew more violent. Laura Schauer Ives is Carrie's attorney and is suing Silver City and Grant County.
A month before Captain Contreras killed Nikki, he threatened suicide, he beat her up.
Police reports document their sordid history. One officer wrote, Nikki looked beaten up. Another officer referred to the domestic violence as an ongoing issue. And the day Mark killed Nikki, he took away her cell phone, and while he was in his police uniform with his service weapon, he stalked and pulled over the man he suspected was having an affair with Nikki.
Nikki contacted the chief and said, really, he's dangerous. This is freaking me out. You need to do something. Again, Chief Reynolds did nothing.
Instead, reports indicate the chief referred Nikki to a shelter for battered women. The location of such shelters is a well-protected secret from the public, but not from police, and Captain Contreras knew right where it was. Nikki had no place to hide. A concerned friend contacted the Grant County Sheriff's Office on Nikki's behalf. A sheriff's deputy met with Contreras and told him he'd rather be drinking beers with him than investigating him for domestic violence.
Well, dude, I hate to be here. I'd rather be drinking a cold one or something.
I know, yeah. I mean, it sucks, but it happens, I guess. You know, it is what it is.
Alrighty, I'm just gonna talk to her. It's what she wants. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
yeah,
you,
she's gonna want me to leave, but I don't have to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it is what it is. She wants to leave, she can leave.
Yeah. No, that'll work.
And here's where the details get chilling. Captain Contreras knew that he was no longer allowed to be inside his house. And his boss, Chief Reynolds, knew that as well. But Chief Reynolds, according to that lawsuit, allowed Captain Contreras inside to gather a whole arsenal of weapons, including the very gun that he would use to shoot and kill Nikki Bascom. Minutes later,
Herman, I've got a homicide-suicide here. Mark Contreras just shot his old lady and then himself in the head. I'm at 1308. I'm kicking everyone out of the scene right now. I need some help.
Sergeant Michael Yost expressed his regret that he should have done more to help Nikki.
I should have pulled him over when I had the chance.
Who knows? You could have got in a shootout with him.
Yeah, but she'd still be alive. I should have done it. I should have pulled him over. If I'd have pulled him over, she'd be alive right now. Should have done it.
No, you would have pulled her over. Who knows what he would have done?
So what? She'd still be alive. It makes me sick because I knew this was going to happen. Fuck, man, I can't believe Mark killed himself. I should have pulled him over. She'd probably be alive if I had.
Do you think that if Mark wasn't a police officer, that perhaps the police department would have treated this situation differently?
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you believe that to be true?
Because anybody else would have been arrested about 15 times that day.
There was nobody for her to turn to. The people that she needed to turn to were facilitating his violence. The people that she needed to turn to didn't take domestic violence seriously.
The lawsuit alleges the Silver City Police Department and Grant County Sheriff's Office were more interested in protecting their buddy, Mark Contreras, than helping a real victim of domestic violence.
Nikki was not just one woman up against one man, which is intimidating enough. She was a woman up against an entire police department that was emboldening and protecting and ensuring that whatever violence Mark wanted to undertake, they weren't going to stop it.
Carrie Dalton has full custody of Nikki and Mark's two children. They live in Utah now, where they are trying to heal. Where do you think you've gotten the strength to pick up
Nikki
and take care of your grandchildren?
Nikki.
And provide them as normal of a life as possible?
Nikki.
She gives you that?
Yes, she does. Every day. Several times a day.
Chris Ramirez, 4 Investigates.
Mark Contreras' family told Chris Ramirez they dispute that Mark was abusive toward Nikki Bascom before he killed her.
An attorney for the Silver City Police Department chose not to comment on this story. A spokesperson for the Grant County Sheriff's Department wouldn't even return a phone call to discuss this story with us.
Our next big winter storm is finally moving in from the west. Won't get here till about Wednesday night. In fact, a winter storm watch has taken effect, or I should say will take effect tomorrow evening for the San Juans of Colorado, including areas around Durango and Pagosa Springs, where more than a foot of snow is possible in the higher elevations. But in the metro, nothing like that yet. Still 52 degrees outside. Wind is light. Humidity is relatively low. And across the state, temperatures already freezing in Taos at 32, 55 in Clayton, 37 in Gallup, and 49 there in Deming. And as we zoom out, you can see what's been controlling our weather pattern here over the past several days. A strong ridge of high pressure, which has kept temperatures well above average. In fact, record-setting highs occurred today in places like Santa Fe and Tucumcari. But there is our next storm system, which will move through the state by Thursday. Now, tomorrow should be a nice day for the most part. Some increasing clouds from the west, should remain dry, though, and breezy at times. In fact, there's a red flag warning that takes effect for the northeast plains, so watch out for fire danger there. And then there is that cold front that'll rush through beginning Thursday. Notice the bulk of the moisture is going to remain well to the north of the viewing area. Could impact southwest Colorado. That's about it. The rest of us will be dealing with high winds and colder temperatures. Now, your Wednesday is looking fantastic with temperatures warming up into the 60s yet again. So who can get their first freeze of the season? Well, places like TRC and Deming could by Friday with lows around 32, well behind schedule. Same in Roswell Saturday, expecting a low of 30, well behind schedule. And here in the metro, we usually get our first freeze on the 30th of October. It's going to occur this Friday, but not as bad as the record, which was set back in 2007 on November 22nd. Very close, though. Southeastern Plains, lows tonight in the 30s and 40s with highs in the 70s and 80s tomorrow. 7-day forecast in Roswell showing those temperatures cooling down into the 50s by Friday thanks to that cold front, with lows finally below freezing beginning Saturday morning. Southwest New Mexico, lows tonight in the 40s with highs in the 70s tomorrow. Beautiful day. Four Corners, same thing. Clear tonight. Increasing clouds tomorrow with highs in the mid and upper 60s, even close to 70 degrees there in Grant. And that 7-8 Farmington showing those temperatures going down big time by Thursday and Friday with highs just in the 40s and lows in the teens by Friday and Saturday. Northeast Plains. Expect lows tonight down in the 20s and 30s, even some 40s with highs in the 70s and 80s. Fire danger will be high there in Clayton, Roy, and near Las Vegas. So outdoor burning not recommended there. Santa Fe, lows tonight in the 30s with highs in the 60s. It's going to be a beautiful day. Some breezes at times, but the wind will really crank up Thursday with the cold front. Therefore, expect highs only in the 40s by Friday with lows down to 19 Friday and Saturday morning before we dry out by Sunday. But look at Monday. Another storm potential on the way. East Mountains, lows tonight in the 30s with highs in the 60s tomorrow. And in Valencia County, we expect those lows this evening down in the 30s with highs around 70. And in the metro, should be a very nice day tomorrow with highs in the 60s and even a few 70s out there. But that 7 days showing that cool down beginning Thursday and Friday with highs in the 50s and lows finally below freezing beginning Friday morning. Sports with JP is next.
Good evening, everyone. The University of New Mexico women's basketball team was home tonight to face in-state rival New Mexico State. The players were as fired up as the fans tonight. Lobos started on a 12-0 run. Mikkel Burleson had 8 of their first 12, and the Lobos hit from all over. Alex Laparolari fires away from three-point range. She had 5 triples tonight and 22 points. Jada Bavero hit back-to-back triples. 84-55. Lobos with a big victory over their rival.
I think rivalries are for fans, and I think it's great, and I think our fans loved it, and I'm glad they did. But for us, it was game number 2.
UNM football coach Bob Davie says Austin Apodaca has earned the right to start Saturday at Colorado State. It'll be a homecoming for the Colorado native who grew up near Fort Collins and is looking to gather up 80 to 100 tickets for friends and family.
It's fun, I grew up watching their games over there at Hughes Stadium, watching, Sonny Lubick coach and, Bradley Van Pelt and all those guys play. So, I'm excited about it. It's fun to go home and play.
Dallas Cowboys quarterback Tony Romo doesn't want his possible return from a back injury to become a distraction for rookie quarterback Dak Prescott, so Romo addressed the issue today.
I was that kid once, stepping in, having to prove yourself. And if I remember one thing from back then, it's the people that helped me along when I was young. And if I can be that to Dak, I've tried to be, and I will be going forward.
Time for a break, but when we come back, you get a T-shirt, and you get a T-shirt, and you get a T-shirt. Bob Davie honors the diehard fans. Tonight's New Mexico Game Day Player of the Week winner had rushing and passing touchdowns, and he's not a quarterback. Clovis running back Micah Gray helped the Wildcats advance in the playoffs by beating El Dorado on the ground and in the air. He rushed for 258 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also threw a TD toss as well. Micah Gray from Clovis, you are the New Mexico Game Day Player of the Week. And we are on the clock. A great early season matchup in college hoops. Second-ranked Kentucky and Michigan State. Freshman Malik Monk was money. He drained 7 3-pointers, finished with 23 points. Wildcats win 69-48. And finally, UNM football coach Bob Davie had T-shirts made up to commemorate the unique experience of finishing the weather-delayed Nevada game at 1:10 in the morning. He says he already sent out over 150 T-shirts to the faithful fans who emailed him saying they were there. I didn't have to email him. I was there, and it was a really unique experience.
You were there working.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, JP. We'll be right back.
That's your Tuesday. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for watching KOB Eyewitness News 4. Always on Facebook and Twitter, on your phone, and on KOB.com.